How's it going, everybody? My name's Parallax Abstraction, and welcome to Retro Flashback, showcasing gaming's roots for a new generation. So, I've been meaning to do this for a while, and, well, okay, so a little bit of backstory here. Quite a while ago, I did a video on Sonic's Ultimate Genesis Collection, which was a retail compilation of good Genesis games for the Xbox 360 and the PS3. It was just a video talking about the package itself. I didn't really focus on any games within it. And inexplicably, that video has continued to be one of the best viewed ones on my channel. Don't know why, never figured it out, but people seem to like knowing how that package is. So I actually purchased another one around the same time, and I've been meaning to do a video on it forever. And I decided to try it out today. You're also going to notice that this video is in YouTube's shiny new 60 frames a second functionality. Some of the games within this package can utilize it, and I got the gear to do it, so I'm giving it a shot. So let me know what you guys think about that. So yeah, here it is. We are taking a look at Midway Arcade Origins. This is on the Xbox 360, but it is also available for the PlayStation 3, just as the Sonic collection was. So this is, well, it's kind of the same thing, but for Midway Arcade games. It was actually developed by the same team, Backbone Entertainment, and actually kind of sadly, this was their last game. They actually went out of business as their parent company, Foundation 9, continued to struggle and continues to struggle to this day. And after this came out in November of 2012, Backbone was very quietly shuttered, and that was kind of the end of it. But I don't know. I think this was kind of a decent thing to go out on. Backbone was famous for these emulation packages, and I think it's pretty good. The reviews on this in general, when it came out, were not very good, for a couple of reasons that I will get into, and they're valid concerns, but I still think this is overall a pretty good thing. I picked this up brand new, sealed in the package for 20 bucks. It's not, I don't believe it's being pressed and sold in retail anymore, but you could still probably find it either online or in stores, new or used, pretty easily. You can also buy it for $20 on Xbox Live on the 360. You can buy it digitally that way. Not available on PlayStation Network, unfortunately. So you want to play it on the PS3, you got to find yourselves a disc, which is a little bit of a bummer. So, yeah. So Midway was an interesting company. They started in 1958 as a manufacturer of things like slot machines and other sort of amusement games. They got into video games in the 70s, and they are one of the most famous American arcade developers ever. They put out a lot of really interesting, really fun games that did very, very well, and they were around for a long time. Unfortunately, as they tried to make the transition into home consoles, they succeeded for a little while, but in the 2000s, never really found their footing. They had a lot of promising games come out that ended up being pretty crappy, and that plus a string of horrible management ended up with them going under in 2009. Most of their assets were purchased by Warner Brothers, and that's why this game bears the Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment logo, as most of the games in here are now owned by them. So that's kind of the deal here. So once again, I'm gonna show you some of the games, but we're not focusing on any of the games today. It is mostly this package and how it reproduces the games for people who are into that. I'll do videos on some of the games in this series at a later time. Cool? Alright. So, what do we got in here? Well, it is a pretty big selection of stuff, and there's a lot of good stuff in here, so we're gonna go down the list real fast. We got 720, APB, Arch Rivals, Bubbles, Championship Sprint, Defender, Defender 2, Gauntlet, Gauntlet 2, Joust, Joust 2, there's a lot of sequels in here, Marble Madness, Pit Fighter, oh boy, Rampage, Rampart, Robotron 2084, oh yeah, Tapper, oh yeah, Satan's Hollow, Sinistar, Smash TV, oh yeah, Spy Hunter, oh, one of my favorite arcade games ever, Spy Hunter 2, Polar Opposite, terrible friggin' game. Off-Road, Super Sprint, Tubin, yes! Total Carnage, Tournament Chase Ball, and Vindicators Part 2, and Wizard of War, and Xenophobe, and Zybots. I kept thinking it was at the end of the list there. So as you can see, there is a lot of games in here, and some of these games are just ultra classics, like just very highly regarded titles. Sadly, there are some big omissions in this that I really would have liked to see. I did a video a little while ago on Road Blasters, which I absolutely loved. That is not in here. That is in some of the Midway collections that were released on the generation of consoles previous to this, so the PS2, GameCube, and original Xbox. It is in there. It is not in here, which is a bummer. Paperboy is not in here for some reason, and of course, none of the Mortal Kombat stuff is in here. Now, Mortal Kombat is the real big cheese out of these things, and of course, it has had its own compilations elsewhere, which is why that is. Mortal Kombat is big enough to get its own show, basically. So, now, you may have seen that I've done videos on some of these games before, and yes, indeed, in the original form of Xbox Live Arcade, when the Xbox 360 first came out in 2005, Midway and Digital Eclipse, which was actually basically a division of Backbone that focused on old-school emulation stuff at the time, released several games as standalone individual packages on there. What did we get? We got Tapper, we got Robotron, we got Paperboy, we got Smash TV, we got... I forget what else we got. We got some other things. Unfortunately, when Midway went under, most of those games came down, and if I recall correctly, they're still not around to this day. They never came back. If you bought them, you can still download them and play them, so I can still do that, but I don't believe you can get them fresh anymore, which has always been a bummer. Most of those games made it into this package, which is nice, except Paperboy. Where the hell's my Paperboy? It's a friggin' great game. So, anyway... So this package is pretty solid, however, it definitely is lacking some stuff that the Sonic's Ultimate Genesis Collection did. So from this menu here, this is a pretty nice menu in that it gives nice little representations of the original cabinets all these games came in. It looks very nice. It doesn't, like, I am mashing the D-pad right now. Unfortunately, the menu is kind of slow. It's not the ideal way to get around if you want to select stuff quickly, whereas Sonic's Ultimate Genesis Collection was just a menu. However, this does retain the favorites functionality. So as you can see there, by pressing up on the D-pad, it puts a little star beside a game, and you can sort the games as well to get to things quickly. So you can sort them by genre categories. These are pre-programmed and can't be altered. So action, yeah, it's a good lineup. Driving, driving, pretty awesome. Well, I guess Tubin's driving, kind of. Platformer, I don't know if I'd call Bubbles a platformer, but okay. Tapper I wouldn't call a platformer either, but, you know, interpretation and whatnot. Shooters, that's pretty good. That's really good, actually. Sports, as it were, yeah, I guess, you know, Cyberball and 720 or sports games, if you will. And then there's your favorites. So you can, if you have games that you know you want to play on a frequent basis, then you just set your favorites and away you go. So it makes things pretty easy. When you go into a particular game, actually I'm going to go, I like Bubbles, but I want to go into something that will really, really show off 60 frames a second here. Let's do Defender. So here are your options. So as you can see, it gives you a control layout. Just like in Sonic's Ultimate Genesis Collection, you can remap the controls every button. Thank you. Not nearly enough games do this. Mega kudos to them for that. I mean, most of these features are the same because I'm sure this front end runs off the same tech, but nonetheless, a good thing is a good thing. So there we have it. So very happy to see that they put that in there. And of course, you bork all this up. You can just go default, bang, there you go. And it remaps the little diagram on the left too, which is really, really nice. So you have two options, or, well, three options technically, but two are variants. So you have free play, which is just what it says. There's no limit to continues, there's no limit to credits. You can play as long as you want. You want to credit feed your way through an entire game to see the whole thing, that's fine. You can do that, or you can also go in here and customize it further. You want to turn the difficulty down, you can do that. You want to turn your lives way up, you can do that. The difficulty, you can set a difficulty limit for games that allow it. I mean, every game has different versions of these settings. You're essentially altering dip switches on the arcade board. A lot of these are settings that arcade operators actually had the freedom to change themselves by altering physical switches on the arcade board to make them easier or harder. Most of them never did that. Most of them never changed. They just kept everything the same, or at the defaults, which is what they usually recommended, but... So as you see here, I did a bunch of lives. I did bonus life at a low thing. We turned we left the difficulty limit. We changed the planet restore. So you see it, and it will actually give you a little description of each of the little options. Once again, you can use defaults to go back. I like this. And then when you hit free play, you can go in and play with those rules, which is really nice. So, a lot of these games are multiplayer. The multiplayer is local only. So, you want to play this with people, you got to have multiple controllers, you got to have multiple people around the same console. Online would have been nice, but it's tough. Many people who own the Midway Xbox Live Arcade games may remember that most of them had online play, and they were virtually unplayable. They were terrible. These games were never meant to be online, and making them work correctly requires that they basically write a netcode routine for each one. That's a monumental undertaking for a package that is being sold as a value proposition. So I don't blame them for it. It would have been really nice, but really, how many people were even going to use it anyway? Probably not that many. So anyway, you can assign your players here, and when you're ready, you hit go. Now, the big question that any enthusiast is really going to have here is, how is the emulation quality? It's pretty good. It's not perfect. One of the ways this game took a lot of stick was that several of the games in this collection were designed to be used with a trackball, and the way they sort of remap the controls to make it work with a gamepad, not so great. I'm not going to disagree with that, but we'll talk about that later. In the case of things like this as well, you get things like the attract mode here, which is nice. Some real hardcore enthusiasts love to see everything like the actual BIOS of the boards, of the arcade boards booting up. I'm a nerd who likes that kind of stuff, but honestly, this package isn't made for us. It's made for the mainstream, and I don't blame them for excluding that. But it does do a little bit of weird things. Some of the games have weird sound glitches when you start them. Almost like it has like the last few frames of an attract mode in it or something like that, but you're going to see. So all you got to do to start is hit A, and away we go. So this game is hopefully going to be showing off my 60 frames a second. So Defender, notoriously hard, and also I'm not very good at it to boot. But as you can see, my rules applied. I got extra lives. If I can actually get myself to 5,000 points here, maybe I can actually trigger the extra life as well. Hey, drop that guy. Drop that guy. Give me that. Give me that. It's my guy. There we go. So, I mean, in this case, it's playing pretty well. I've looked at the originals of some of these games. I looked up footage of some of the originals of these games. Oh, sorry, exploding human. I looked up footage of some of the original games for comparison, and by and large, it's pretty good. It's very hard to quantify, but some of them do feel a little bit like the sound might be a little bit off. I'm not sure about that. Some of these games use very weird hardware, in particular very weird sound chips, but I don't know. You know, MAME has solved that. Like, there's plenty of emulation out there that works very solid, and I know Backbone and Digital Eclipse typically write their own engines for that stuff, as far as I know, but... So you see there, I hit 5,000 points because I set the extra life threshold low, so I got myself an extra life. So there's how the free play works. Set your own rules, play by your own rules, just kind of sit and enjoy yourself. That's really the idea. So, gives you that there. So, when you're in a game, you can remap the controls while you're in the game. Very much I like that. Also, yeah, this is kind of interesting. When you pause the game, it shows little factoids along the bottom. I wish there was a way to view this stuff when you weren't just sitting paused in a game, which I find kind of weird. But, yeah, you can sit and read this stuff. So, it's kind of neat little factoids, you know. So, you may have heard me talk in the past about things like Capcom Arcade Cabinet and how utterly bonkers the customization options are for that game in terms of what you can do to the screen and the sound and everything else. Much like Sonic's Ultimate Genesis Collection, the options in this are limited, but they're the only options you really care about. Like, I'll give mega props to M2 for what they did in Capcom Arcade Cabinet, but you didn't need 90% of that stuff unless you were a crazy person. And again, this was not made for crazy people. So, basically, you can adjust the screen size if you want to stretch things out a little bit. It's really not very significant, as you can see. At least in this game. That's probably... This might change in other ones. We'll check that out. You can change... Whoops. You can change the wallpaper if you want. Well, or in this case, just turn it off, I guess. So you basically have a wallpaper in the background because a lot of these games are not in widescreen. They wanted to fill in the black stuff on the side with something interesting. So in a lot of cases, you get the background. There's also sharp and clean. So... and smooth. So, yeah, a lot of people have a problem with these. Basically, what these attempt to do is to put filters on the images in the games to make them look a little less rough. The idea is that you take off some of the jagged edges of the graphics, and it makes them a little more palatable. I've never really understood that. If you're buying a collection to play old games, you kind of want to play them the way they were supposed to be played. Now you can see here, what are we on? We're on clean. Now look at this. This looks friggin' terrible. Like, you can see it. Everything is all rounded off. It's like one of these... It's like taking a proper old-school wooden playset at a children's playground and replacing it with one of these god-awful, modern, all-plastic, rounded, safety-first things that are devoid of any creativity at all. It was a weird metaphor, but yeah, it's just... Oh, the text is blurry. Like, this looks like garbage. So, now let's try smooth. I've actually never played with any of these before recording this, so we'll see. Okay, now smooth looks a little better. Definitely not as rounded. This I guess, is kind of the midpoint, maybe. Or is this the original? See, the descriptions are not very good. Smooth blends pixels slightly. Sharp presents clean-edged pixels. Okay, so sharp is original, I'm guessing. So this is kind of the midway point. So smooth is hardcore, basically anti-aliasing, whereas this is sort of midway. Not bad, but like, look up at the score thing. It's still a little blurry. This is inoffensive, shall we say? Oh, there goes the planet. This I would call inoffensive, but no. I'm a purist. I want my sharp. There we go. This is original. And sharp is exactly right. So, there we go. I really qualified for something with that? Yeah, okay, why not? So, yeah, the options are fairly limited, but they're good. They're the kinds of things that you really would care about in a collection like this. And the thing is, right, when you're selling a collection to try to appeal to a group of people who are maybe not into this stuff, you don't want to overwhelm them with options because it can be intimidating at some points. So, the other option is in a game. I'm going to switch over to Robotron here. This is one of my... I am absolutely sucktacular at this game, but I still love it. So as you can see, it has less lives because there's less conditions to worry about. So you can play free play, but the real meat of this, if you're competitive people, is score attack. So score attack is... you get one continue. You're playing on one quarter. So when it's game over, it's game over. You can't credit feed into it. It's by the default arcade rules, and that's it. It's one go. It's really reliant on your skill set. Now, what's the benefit of this? Two things. One, every game has an achievement, just like in Sonic's Ultimate Genesis Collection, an achievement/trophy. You can only earn those in score attack mode. We'll get to the achievements later. And every game does have online leaderboards, which I'm very happy to see. Online leaderboards only work in score attack, because obviously in free play you could cheese your way, or cheat your way up. Very much like stuff like Capcom Arcade Cabinet, etc., etc. So this is score attack here. So we're going to do a run. Alright. As I said, trust me, this won't take long. I am not good at Robotron. One of the best twin-stick games ever made. The first twin-stick game, I believe, and I am going to say the best. But this game will also beat you about the soul. So, I actually got the achievement in this game, which is to save 7 humans in one run, which is actually not particularly difficult, if you ask me. But we'll talk about the achievement shortly. The achievement design in this game is, again, very similar to Sonic's Ultimate Genesis Collection in that it's wildly inconsistent. For reasons that almost feel intentional to me, and yet I don't know why. I'm gonna finish getting my ass kicked here, and then we'll yeah. And then we'll show you the results of this. So all right, so there we go. I'm usually better than that, but I'm recording, so all right. So put the thing like that. All right, so there we go. So one life, or not one life, one credit. That's it, right? So okay. So as you can see, now we have a leaderboard option, and here it is. These are the savants who lead it. Like almost every game on a console that has leaderboards, you very likely will never be as good, even remotely as good, as the people at the top. It's just the way it works. It's just how it is. But like most leaderboards, you can do a few different things. So you can jump in, you can scroll down. You see, you want to find out about somebody, you can view their gamer card if you want. Maybe if you want to try to friend somebody up to try to challenge them. Probably a little harder now since this game has been out for a while, and it is unfortunately on the previous generation of consoles, which are still around but have been replaced by this point. So you see, you can do that. You can change your sorting method. So there you go. See, I asked for my own score. I'm 369th, which is not horrible. That's based on your best score, not your current run. Only your best score gets submitted. And as you might have seen there as well, you can also sort by friends. So you see, I have one person on my friends list who actually owns this game, which is cool. And this guy is normally an absolute nut bar when it comes to anything score attack. You should see some of his scores on Zen Pinball. I'm really surprised I'm beating him, actually. So yeah, you can see here, now you may have seen that it looked, the leaderboard stuff looks a little sparse. 4,936 entries on one of the most popular games. Yeah, this collection didn't sell very well, as far as I know. It's probably one of the reasons Backbone went under, and it's also probably why Warner Brothers has not announced another one since. Whereas back in the PS2 era, Midway put out 3 different collections on there, all of which did pretty well as far as I know. So yeah, not a lot of people played this, but at the, you can flip that around and say, well, there's less leaderboard competition. My 96,000 run in Robotron ain't that impressive, really, by competitive standards, but, I got myself pretty high up, so that's always nice. And of course, there are achievements. Now, you may see I unlocked a bunch of these already. I was testing this game out for a couple hours yesterday. So, just like Sonic's Ultimate Genesis Collection, the achievements in this game are all over the place. So, these are the ones I've unlocked. These are all the easy ones, for the most part. Some of these are very, very simple. Like, defeating Satan in Satan's Hollow only takes a couple of minutes. Swept up a big bug in Bubbles only takes a minute. 3 astronauts in Defender, not super easy, but, a little bit of practice, you'll be fine. 10,000 points and 3 times your opponent's score at the same time in Wizard of War. Sounds intimidating, it's not really. Granted, we used to have one of these cabinets at an old job I had, and I played it a lot. 10,000 points in Spy Hunter is easy. Use a shortcut in Total Carnage, takes about 10 seconds. 25 customers, though, dropping a glass. I'm pretty good at Tapper, so there's that. Now, as you can see, they have scored these relative to how hard they believe they are. So, like, these are 15 points. These are the low ones. They believe the Wizard of War achievement was hard to get, so it's 85 gamer score. Surviving the first level in Xenophobe, I didn't find that too hard either, but they thought it was sort of a medium-level achievement. Pro tip, this achievement in Spy Hunter 2 can be cheesed. If you get killed and just sit at the game over screen for 15 minutes, it counts. Oops. 7 family members in Robotron, etc., etc. So, as you can see here, some of these are nuts. 720p, earn a gold medal on any event in Score Attack. That's pretty tough in 720. APB, take down Freddy Freak. I tried this for 40 minutes and couldn't do it. It's tough, but that's also because APB doesn't play very well on a controller, which we're going to get to. Championship Sprint, Gauntlet, reach level 8. Harder than it seems, especially when you're playing by yourself. Gauntlet 2, etc., etc. So some of these are really, really hard. Smash TV, defeat the first level in Score Attack mode. This is defeat the first level, the first entire level of Smash TV in 1 credit. Smash TV is brutal, and doing that in 1 credit is kind of nuts. If you are a bit of an achievement or a trophy nut, I highly recommend going to trueachievements.com and looking up this game. The community there has written guides to almost all of these, and some of them are really, really cool and have videos as well. So it's kind of neat. I like the way they did it. I like that they made it a specific goal in every game. They didn't just make it, play every game for 2 hours and stupid crap like that. It's all stuff related to the games, which means they put a little thought and time into it. Design choices are a little strange, but whatever. So yeah. So all of the games that use normal control methods work pretty well in this. I have no real complaints. The one problem I do have, of course, that most people know is that the D-pad on the Xbox 360 controller sucks horribly. If you can get one of the newer controllers that has one of the better D-pads, I would highly recommend that, especially for games like Tapper that require straight up and down response. Or if you want to go further, if you have a fight stick, I actually have a Street Fighter 4 arcade stick from Mad Catz. It's not plugged in right now, but it has fantastic digital input. Really, really precise. For a lot of games like this, that's the way to play if you really want to be competitive. But of course, buying a $200 fight stick for a $20 game collection, probably not. But just so you know. Honestly, on the PS4 or PS3 with its much superior D-pad, I think you'd have a better experience with a lot of this stuff. Now, the games, however, that do not use standard controls, this is where things get a little interesting. So let's start with an easy one. This is Spy Hunter. Spy Hunter is one of my favorite games of all time, arcade games in particular. I have played a bazillion hours of this game. So the way it works is this game in the arcade had a steering wheel. Now the steering works fine, as you can see. It's just mapped to left and right, and the right trigger is your gas pedal, easy peasy. Now the other thing about Spy Hunter is that it actually had a gear shift on the cabinet. There was only 2 gears. There was low and high, and and you see what they do. All it does by kicking into high gear is speed you up, and that's a purely greed move. By doing that, you get a lot more points, you progress a lot faster, and it also ups your risk, because if you hit someone while in low gear, so you just kind of bounce off him, and sometimes you run innocents off the road. If you're in high gear and you hit somebody, yeah. So the gear shift is actually mapped to the right stick, which is not bad. It's okay. But it is a little bit strange. Some people might prefer to map that stuff to to the buttons, or potentially even to triggers, and use like the A button to accelerate. I could understand why people would want to do that. Thankfully, the game gives you that capability, so that's pretty good. Also, as well in this game, I may be misremembering when I played this in the arcade, but the sound of those enemy cars putting out their spiky wheels, sounds wrong to me. It sounds extra high-pitched. And I may be wrong about that, I don't know. But anyway, still plays really well. So you get the idea for that. So let's back out of here. Now, where stuff gets interesting is in a lot of these driving games, like Off-Road and Super Sprint, because these use wheels in a much, much more analog fashion. Let's hit this up here. Oh yes, that's right. These games were owned by Midway, but they were made by Leland Corp. Midway didn't actually make these. Like you see, for example, here, this game assumes that you're entering your name by using the wheel, so I can only select letters by moving left and right. I actually can't move up and down. Minor thing, but kind of weird. I just want my birthday. Whatever. I don't care when you guys know when I was born. I'm 35. I'm an old fogey. And I'm Canadian. So yeah, you see here, this is okay on an analog stick, but it ain't great. It's very... Because what was great about the arcade is that you could grab that wheel. It was a fairly loose wheel, so you could grab that wheel and just ram it. Like, you could just go like, to really make a quick, sharp turn if you wanted to. This is a specific when you hit the analog stick on the controller here, it assumes that you're turning the wheel at a set pace. There's no acceleration on the turn, and it assumes that you're doing it a certain way. Now, as you can see, I'm managing here. I mean, I'm not playing very well because I'm talking while I'm doing it, but it's okay, but it's definitely not the ideal way to play this. If you are someone who is very familiar with the arcade game, this is going to be basically relearning how to play. That's unfortunate. I don't really know what they could have done about that. If you wanted to include this game, you got to work with what you got, right? Not everybody has a racing wheel on their 360, so yeah, but it's less than ideal. So I'm going to show you that Super Sprint as well. Similar situation. You're going to see as well a number of games on here that say Atari games. So for an explanation on that, Atari at one point had a separate division when they were making the let's do this. When Atari was making the 2600 and home computers and things like that, they had a separate division called Atari Games that made arcade stuff. And now, as you see, I'm kind of killing it here. This has the same limitations as Off-Road, but because I'm playing on the easy track, the computer is presenting no challenge whatsoever. So, yeah, so Atari had an arcade business for a while, and then when Atari began to collapse on its own at one point, they actually sold that business to Midway. And it eventually became Midway Games West, which lasted for quite a while until near Midway's bankruptcy. So that's why you see a lot of Atari Games things on here, because these are all properties that Midway and now, by transition, Warner Brothers owns. So there's this. This I find is easier to control than Off-Road, but still, not less than ideal. Now, where things get particularly interesting is in stuff like APB. This is another driving game. The controls on this, at least by default, I haven't tried to mess with them, but they're bloody weird. So APB is an interesting game, and it's a really good game. You're playing a cop, and your goal, it's like a cartoonish cop, and your goal is to arrest people doing bad things. So here's how this works. You accelerate. Whoops. You accelerate. Oh, I'm doing the training thing. So you accelerate. This is probably not the best day to play. I might do this after. So the way you play this game is by you accelerate with the right trigger. Again, you steer with the analog stick. The steering is terrible. It's super slow. The response is just it's really bad, and it makes it really tough. And then in order to arrest people and to not get demerits in the game by hitting people that you're not supposed to, you have to turn your siren on. You do this by holding down the A button by default. So you see here, and by keeping your siren on, you get people to pull over. There, and you can find them. And that's the idea. This is so incredibly awkward, it's unbelievable. Like, I'm trying to drive with the right trigger while also holding down the A button and trying to manage this god-awful analog steering that is so slow. And, you know, you get demerits and penalties for hitting people. You get, you can blow up by hitting stuff the wrong way. It's terrible. This is a horrible way to play this game. So you see, I got too many demerits, and in true APB fashion, I got fired by getting thrown into a trash can. This is terrible. The analog steering on this, they just totally screwed up. And APB is a great game, but it has really been done a disservice here. You cannot play it properly. It's really a bummer. I'm sure you could figure it out, but it would be really frustrating to do that. That's another one. Marble Madness. Now, a lot of people got upset about this in reviews because Marble Madness played with a trackball, and Marble Madness with anything but a trackball, people call not pure. I don't think it's at all impossible to play that way, not even remotely. But a lot of people would disagree and say that's not how you play Marble Madness. I'm not going to go that far. But I will say that trying to do this, again, with the analog stick on a 360 controller, less than ideal. Some people would say this is you're making it too easy, because when you were playing Marble Madness with the trackball, you had to mash the trackball as quickly as possible in order to make the ball move, and then you were supposed to counterspin it the other way very quickly when you wanted the ball to when you wanted the ball to stop. So yeah, the way you do that here, obviously, is you don't have to do that. You just have to press the analog stick in the other way, and you get that automatically. So some would say that makes this game a lot easier. And yeah, they in some ways they're not wrong. Marble Madness was notoriously difficult, and it's still difficult. Like, don't make no mistake, this is not an easy game, even playing it this way. It's like, I look like I'm doing well here, but these are beginner levels. And now stuff just becomes bloody insane. So yeah, again, if you are someone reviewing this from a hardcore arcade purist perspective, you're going to find a lot of problems with this. I think reviewers were too hard on this game for that reason, for the simple fact that, once again, while this is a nice thing to have if you are an arcade purist and you're somebody like me who has neither the time nor the money to keep a whole whack of arcade machines in your house, it's yeah, okay, it's good for that, but this is not made for us. This was a package designed for people at Walmart to pick up on an impulse, who are like, hey, I've heard of these old arcade games, or hey, I grew up in the 80s, I love Marble Madness, that was a great game, I want to sit down and play that for 20 minutes and never pick it up again. And for those people, I think it's fine. They're still going to go, oh my god, this game is still ridiculously hard, and that's that. And that's very much the case, I think. So yeah, if you're a purist, it's going to be a bit of a problem. But you know what? If you're that hardcore into Marble Madness, you're probably playing this with a trackball, either on your own cabinet or quasi-legally through MAME or something like that. They actually make trackball controllers for PCs that you can use with this game. So, I mean, yeah, I agree there's a problem, but yeah, I don't think it's as bad as people said it is. So the one thing that I do think is a really bummer omission from this is that on Sonic's Ultimate Genesis Collection, a lot of the games had little history lessons that you could look up with them, and there were actually unlockable videos and things like that with some of the creators that little interviews and promotional things in that talked about them. Really gave you a little bit of the sense of the history and some of what the ideals were that went into that game. Or to the games in that collection. You don't get that here at all. This was clearly made with a smaller budget. Warner Brothers probably went to Backbone and went, hey, you wrote that tech to do those Xbox Live Arcade games at one point, and well, most of these games ran on the same hardware, or variants of the same platform, so they all had the ability to easily reproduce it. And they went, look, let's put this out for $20. We'll make some quick and easy money, and that'll be that. That's clearly what this was. It's not a bad package for that, but this did not have the love and historical care I personally think that Sonic's Ultimate Genesis Collection did. A lot of these creators the guys who made some of these games are legendary in the industry, and most of them are still around, and it would be really awesome to see just some interviews with them, or even some old commercials or arcade flyers or something, something that would say, hey, something that would just be like, hey, here's some other interesting bits of this. Flyers, promotional flyers, especially trade flyers for arcades, were really neat sometimes, and it would have been great to have that stuff. It's not like that stuff can't be found, even online, if Warner Brothers doesn't have any of it. So that's a bummer. The lack of history in this is as someone who believes in showcasing older games to young people so they know where games came from, that's kind of why I do this show. Would have been nice to see that, but oh well. So yeah, that's basically it though. This has been a bit of a long video, but I hope I gave you guys a good idea of the package here, at least, and what we're getting into. Like I said, I'm not really going to be talking about any of the games here at length. I will do I'm going to do videos on some of the games in this collection eventually, and I probably will do them from this collection, just because they're the easy and legal way to play them. So I will probably cover them that way. If you've got an Xbox 360 or a PS3, and it is amazing to me how many people are just sort of writing off these systems and the great amount of content they still have on them just because, you know, something else exists, which I always find kind of sad. But if you've got one of these systems, this is a great value. $20 for 30-plus games. Whoa, jeez. Hi, Satan. $20 for 30-plus games that are generally emulated pretty well, come in a nice wrapper, have online leaderboards, which is critical for anything like this, and have some, you know, relatively easy achievements and stuff like that. I think it's good. Just like Sonic's Ultimate Genesis Collection, it's a really nice package and worth picking up. If you can find it in stores new for $20 or even less used, you can grab it that way. Or if you've got a 360, you can grab it on Xbox Live Arcade for $20 as well. And I like it a lot. It's a good lineup. It's great games at a really, really good price. And there's a lot of different things in here, and there's kind of something for everybody. Yes, it's arcade-focused games, whereas Sonic's Ultimate Genesis Collection had a lot of RPGs and other things like that in it. The amount of hours you may get out of this may not be quite as significant. Here's Spy Hunter 2. Let's just end on this. This game is a travesty compared to the original Spy Hunter. Absolutely hate this game. It's so terrible. But yeah, it's a great value, and if you are into this stuff, I think you'd really like it. I enjoy it, and it's definitely worth $20. So yeah, hope that gives you a little rundown. That is Midway Arcade Origins, developed by sadly now defunct Backbone Entertainment and published by Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment in 2012 for the Xbox 360 and the PS3. Sadly not on PC. I wish it was. This would be a good thing for that. But lots of good stuff in here, and if you're into arcade games, in particular some of the greatest gems of American arcades, you can't go wrong. Take a look. There's a lot of fun to be had here. My name's Parallax Abstraction. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you like what you saw, please like and subscribe. It does help me out a great deal. And I will see you next time. Take it easy, guys.